At 1:40 a.m. in the Black Sea, approximately 1.7 miles off the Novorossiysk naval base, the Russian Kilo-class submarine B-271 Kolpino completed a final battery charge while positioned 130 feet below the surface. The vessel, valued at roughly $450 million, carried four 3M14 caliber cruise missiles, each capable of flying more than 900 miles and estimated at $6 million per unit. According to Ukrainian security officials, the submarine had already been tracked for 18 minutes as it maneuvered toward what they assessed to be a firing position, leaving a 31-minute window before a potential launch. In Kyiv, inside an SBU operations room equipped with satellite feeds and digital mapping systems, analysts confirmed updated positional data showing the submarine shifting toward an alignment consistent with previous strike patterns. Ukraine attributes 37 caliber launches to this submarine since March 2024, each associated with infrastructure damage and emergency power consumption measured in thousands of gallons of fuel per hour. Officials stated that the ongoing situation was not viewed as a routine patrol, but as the onset of a countdown toward a likely missile attack. The Ukrainian mission objective, as described by sources familiar with operational planning, was not merely to target the submarine itself, but to eliminate its missile threat before launch. The submarine operated within a multi-layered defensive structure surrounding the Novorossiysk naval facilities. Central to that system was the Zarya Harbor Sonar Array, a $65 million underwater surveillance network composed of 6 hydrophone clusters and reinforced fiber optic lines designed to detect and classify minute acoustic signatures in real time. The array's artificial intelligence routinely filtered out commercial traffic and marine life with near-zero false alarms, and triggered rapid reaction responses involving patrol boats and helicopters. Ukrainian planners assessed that any unmanned surface vehicle attempting to enter the harbor while Zarya operated at full capacity would likely be intercepted within 90 seconds. Intelligence briefings indicated that Ukraine's initial phase aimed not at the submarine, but at disabling its supporting infrastructure. 2 electrical substations supplying power to the naval complex, including radar, lighting, perimeter surveillance systems, and the Zarya processing core, were identified as priority targets. Each substation sat within about 3 miles of exposed shoreline and depended on transformer banks containing thousands of gallons of cooling oil. Ukraine selected the Bober first-person view drone as the weapon for this stage, describing its 33-pound explosive payload as suitable for precise infrastructure disruption at minimal cost. The intended effect was to trigger a simultaneous strike against both substations, collapse the primary electrical grid, and force the base onto backup power. Zarya required approximately 80 seconds to restart after a total blackout. Ukrainian planning documents indicated that those 80 seconds, during which the harbor's acoustic sensors would be offline, were considered essential for the subsequent phase of the operation. 4 days before the projected launch window, operatives transported a covert package across a Georgia to Russia checkpoint inside a commercial refrigerated truck carrying crates of frozen tuna. Russian border personnel inspected the visible cargo without detecting the concealed false floor beneath it. Hidden inside was a Sea Baby unmanned surface vehicle weighing about 1,874 pounds, equipped with a 660-pound RDX warhead, radar-absorbent materials, low thermal output propulsion, and an encrypted Starlink terminal for beyond line-of-sight control. 3 Bober drones designated for infrastructure strikes were stored alongside it. The total cost of the smuggled systems was reported at under $47,000, significantly lower than the value of the strategic assets they were intended to neutralize. According to operational accounts, the Sea Baby vehicle was deployed at 10:15 p.m., approximately 6.8 miles from the outer harbor perimeter. With no artificial lighting and minimal environmental noise along the shore, operators pushed the craft into the water without using engines or visible signals. The vehicle activated its electric motors for fewer than 10 seconds to clear shallow areas before shifting to passive drift. It advanced at roughly 2.1 knots for 5.5 hours, relying solely on current, inertial navigation, and a magnetic compass. Ukrainian sources stated that the vehicle maintained a thermal profile nearly identical to surrounding seawater and appeared on coastal surveillance radar as environmental clutter. Throughout this period, the Zarya array continued active monitoring, rendering any powered movement too risky. The extended drift phase, according to officials, was integral to the design, allowing the craft to approach within close range without alerting Russian defenses. By 11:47 p.m., the Sea-Baby vehicle had reached a point approximately 0.62 miles from the sonar array, holding position in near dark water as surface defenses, including a Pantsir S-1 system, scanned the area. With detection risks high, Ukrainian planners staged the diversion that would initiate the critical blackout window. The succeeding sequence would determine whether the harbor's defensive network could respond before the approaching unmanned vehicle closed in. Subscribe for continuing coverage of this developing story. At approximately 12:07 a.m., Ukrainian forces initiated what officials described as the distraction and infrastructure neutralization phase of the operation. From a concealed position roughly 2.6 miles from Novorossiysk Naval Base, two Bobir FPV drones launched at low altitude, maintaining a flight path around 50 feet above ground level to remain beneath most short-range radar detection thresholds. Each drone carried a 33-pound explosive charge configured for fixed-site infrastructure strikes. Their route and coordinates, according to operational accounts, had been verified hours earlier by a reconnaissance quadcopter. The first drone struck the eastern electrical substation, detonating inside the transformer bank and igniting thousands of gallons of insulating oil. 4 seconds later, the second drone impacted the western substation, triggering a series of voltage surges and automatic circuit failures across the local grid. The combined strikes resulted in a rapid collapse of primary electrical power to the naval base. Lighting systems, radar arrays, and surveillance cameras shut down abruptly, and the Zarya sonar processing core ceased operation. Backup generators activated automatically, but the sonar system required an estimated 80 seconds to restore full analytical capability. Ukrainian planners regarded this blackout period as the only feasible window in which an unmanned surface vehicle could cross the harbor's defensive envelope without immediate interception. Immediately following the loss of power, the Sea-Baby unmanned surface vehicle engaged its propulsion system. Its twin 15-kilowatt electric motors accelerated the craft to approximately 45 knots as it advanced toward the Zarya array from a distance of about 0.6 miles. Based on timing projections, the vehicle required 47 seconds to reach the target, leaving a margin of roughly 33 seconds before the sonar array's algorithms were expected to resume full function. Russian emergency response procedures activated simultaneously. A Ka-27 anti-submarine helicopter launched from its standby location near the inner harbor, while smoke from the burning substations continued to rise. Using shipborne radar, the helicopter crew identified a rapidly moving surface contact and prepared to deploy sonar buoys and anti-submarine ordnance. Before those measures could be executed, a third Bobir FPV drone launched from the shoreline as part of a Ukrainian contingency plan to disrupt aerial interception. Flying at low altitude and using thermal guidance, the drone locked onto the Ka-27's engine exhaust, which appeared as a prominent heat source against the night environment. The drone struck the aircraft near its tail section, detonating its 33-pound charge and damaging critical control surfaces. The helicopter descended rapidly and was forced out of the engagement sequence before releasing weapons. With aerial interception disabled, the Sea-Baby vehicle proceeded without further challenge. At a distance of approximately 0.44 miles from the Zarya sonar array, onboard targeting systems activated. Sensors locked onto the concrete foundations housing the hydrophone clusters that compose the core of the harbor's underwater detection network. The 660-pound RDX warhead armed automatically, supplemented by a secondary proximity fuse mechanism and an inertial backup trigger to ensure detonation even if external communications degraded. On impact, the vehicle detonated beneath the surface. The resulting underwater shock waves propagated rapidly through the water column, severing fiber optic cabling and shearing reinforced brackets anchoring the hydrophones. All 6 hydrophone clusters were rendered inoperable within milliseconds. Inside the Harbor Command Center, acoustic feeds briefly spiked before data streams terminated entirely. The destruction of the Zarya array, valued at approximately $65 million, eliminated the base's ability to detect underwater movement in real time. Analysts noted that while no structural fires occurred inside the harbor itself, the immediate operational consequence was a loss of situational awareness across the undersea domain. In modern naval operations, officials stated, such a loss significantly reduces defensive reaction capacity and exposes critical assets to heightened risk. Ukrainian sources described this phase as essential groundwork for targeting the submarine threat that initially triggered the operation. Following the destruction of the Zarya harbor sonar array, Ukrainian forces shifted focus to the next phase of the operation, the approach of a mini-submarine platform designed to target the B-271 Kolpino directly. According to technical documentation referenced in operational briefings, the mini-submarine measured slightly more than 14 feet in length and weighed approximately 4,850 pounds. Its primary strike component was a 550-pound shape-charge RDX warhead engineered to penetrate hardened steel and create the structural compromise required to disable a submarine hull. The platform operated on a lithium-ion battery system weighing nearly 1,760 pounds, powering dual electric thrusters rated at a combined 16 kilowatts. The cruising speed was estimated at 4 knots to allow for a silent approach, with a sprint capability reaching approximately 25 knots for terminal engagement. The vessel relied on passive sonar sensors to identify diesel generator signatures and structural shapes without emitting detectable signals. A low-light 4K optical camera provided visual confirmation, while a compact thermal array was used to differentiate machinery operating at higher temperatures than surrounding seawater. Inertial navigation systems limited positional drift to within 1 foot across several miles of travel. Officials noted that although the platform's cost fell significantly below that of conventional torpedoes, its design aligned with recent Ukrainian strategies emphasizing low-cost, high-precision systems capable of degrading or neutralizing substantially more expensive assets. At approximately 1:47 a.m., passive sonar readings recorded by the mini-submarine isolated a 33 Hz diesel generator frequency consistent with a submerged Kilo-class submarine. Analysts placed the confidence level at 94.7%. The contact bearing was identified at 287 degrees, with a range of roughly 1.5 miles and a depth of about 130 feet. The mini-submarine subsequently altered course and descended slightly. It entered what naval specialists describe as a baffle zone behind the submarine, a region where the target's own propulsion noise reduces its ability to detect approaching threats. Ukrainian sources indicated that this maneuver allowed the platform to advance without emitting active signals or exposing itself to residual defensive systems that might still be operational despite the loss of the Zarya array. The broader implications of the strike sequence, according to military analysts, extend beyond the immediate tactical environment. The disabling of a major sonar installation significantly reduces Novorossiysk Naval Base's capacity to monitor the undersea space around its submarine fleet. This blind period, experts noted, could enable follow-on operations against additional assets or restrict Russian naval activity in contested zones of the Black Sea. Moreover, the reported use of low-visibility unmanned platforms highlights a growing operational trend in which cost-effective systems are deployed to neutralize high-value targets previously considered secure within layered defensive networks. Officials familiar with regional security assessments stated that the developments also underscore the evolving dynamics of the conflict, particularly the increasing reliance on asymmetric capabilities. The smuggling of strike platforms concealed within commercial cargo, extended drift-based infiltration routes, and synchronized infrastructure attacks collectively demonstrate a shift toward operations designed to dismantle surveillance and detection frameworks rather than engage in prolonged force-on-force exchanges. The blackout of the Zarya array, even if temporary, was characterized as a meaningful disruption that could influence subsequent naval deployments and defensive planning. The final outcome of the engagement between the mini-submarine and the B-271 Kolpino remains under operational review. However, defense analysts concur that the preceding sequence, including the destruction of the harbor sonar installation, the collapse of aerial interception capability, and the confirmed positioning of an attack platform within the submarine's baffle zone, constitutes a significant development in undersea warfare within the Black Sea theater. Observers continue to monitor for official statements from both sides regarding the aftermath and potential escalation stemming from the incident. Subscribe for updates as more information becomes available.